Hello, everyone. This is Rob Golfi with RE/MAX, the Golfi Team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show, Hamilton edition with host Rick Zamprin.
And you got to call the Golfi Team if you want to get your home sold fast for top dollar in this ever-changing market. I know I've said that in the past, but it is changing by the day, it appears. And you can call the Golfi Team, the number one RE/MAX team in Canada, by the way, at 905-575-7700. There's so much, I'm not sure where to start. We do have a really intriguing listener question we'll get to a little later on in the program. In regards to when realtors take vacation, what should the go-forward plan be on that? We'll dive into that. We'll talk about Royal Bank of Canada saying that sellers are back in the driver's seat. So we've heard that, the market has been balanced for a while. Well, it sounds like sellers have the upper hand once again. We'll also get into a new project or a new report that's out from the Smart Property Institute. It's called Who Will Swing the Hammer, and has some sobering news about what is happening here in Hamilton. To begin the day, though, we are going to talk to Rob Golfi about what is happening in his real estate life. What's your week been like, Rob?
It's been busy. I've been looking into more talk into this shared office space business as partially to partner up with what my business is doing now, and actually owning real estate with it. So the combination is I'm starting a business to pay for the real estate that I want to buy, and the commercial real estate. So in essence, I'm creating a tenant to pay for the real estate, the commercial real estate I'm going to buy. Instead of trying to look for it, I'm going to create it. And so I'm doing a lot of research on that right now, and it's looking good. I'm looking at doing this project to keep buying real estate and just continuing and buying. And even I am buying in this, the way the market's going right now. And I know like sometimes it's hard to work the numbers, but I'm going to make it work. So I'm thinking outside the box to make it work instead of, and the difficulty about buying commercial real estate is that the bank wants to know if you have a tenant. Now, if you don't have a tenant, the banks don't give you the money. And so it's a catch-22. And so I get it. They want to make sure you have it. So a lot of the times I do is I say, I'm going to be a half tenant of that building. And they'll say, okay, you got half a lease. So getting mortgages and stuff like that helps a lot, because I'll say I'm going to be the tenant of the building, or half the tenant, be partial tenant of the building. So that makes it helps a lot. Now, not everybody has the advantage of doing that, but sometimes that's how you have to go to sometimes private lending for a year, and then go to the conventional mortgages. And that's an aspect where it's cost of doing business, but that's how you get ahead. A lot of entrepreneurs use private money to get ahead. And I know this one guy, he says all the builders that he deals with use private money to get going and build their business up. And it's just, and it's expensive, but it's the cost of doing business. So that's one aspect of it. You don't want to use that too often, but and I just probably will use the private money for renovations, but use my money to purchase and get things rolling on it, and then refinance it to a point where, hey, I've got my renovations money, I got this, and now I've got it fully rented, and then I'm good to go to the next one, and I just keep going. With building a business, but I get to own real estate. The McDonald's theory is they became their wealth is in their real estate, and they lease out all the properties that they have all the McDonald's on. And if you looked at the documentary on how McDonald's was created, he basically won over from the McDonald's brothers by owning the real estate.
The whole tenant, the chicken before the egg type debate comes to play, because, unless you have a tenant, you can't buy a space. But if you don't have a tenant, you wouldn't buy the space in the first place. It seems like a tricky situation.
It is very tricky, and it's difficult. And I've got an offer on a building right now, and I am going forward with it. And I don't think I'll have a problem getting financing for the building, but I am creating a business to support so that I get rent from that building. So basically, I'm and the rent that I'm going to create, it'll actually be a positive cash flows. Now I can sell that real estate down the road for a lot more money than what I paid for it, or sell the business and I still get the rent coming in from that. So basically, I'm doing two things. I'm creating a business and buying commercial real estate and building a portfolio that way.
Nice. I'm not sure how much details you want to get into, but is this a real estate related business?
It is. Yeah. It's actually shared office space. Like, you know how they have. Remember the show WeWork? I'm not sure if you saw that. Regis, they have all these little shared office space office buildings or anything like that. So let's say one person just has a small business. He just wants to rent out an office and he doesn't have anything else. That's what I'm going to be offering, is that in these buildings. Or somebody can, spend $200 a month and they get access to all the facilities in this shared office space. They can meet clients there. They can have their mail go there. They can work out of there. They don't have a private office, but they do have access to different cubicles and stuff like that in the office facility. And then other people can have a private office if they want, so that they can they can have a key lock on the door so that they can come and go whenever they want. Boardrooms are there. There's you also can have media rooms if people want to do a podcast room. They can do their podcasts there. So it's basically facilitating small businesses that aren't ready to go into a full-fledged office. It's basically for the startup people. And businesses, and there's a lot of people out there like that. And I remember I did that years ago when I was in my 20s. I remember I was renting an office on Kiefer Court. There was one there it was a shared office space. They had a receptionist at the front, and there was probably I think about 20 offices in there. And then I'd be renting one office, and they would answer my phone. Whatever business I had. So they were doing this, in the 90s, early 90s. So. Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to, and we were going to do this later on in the show, the office vacancy rates. When you look at vacancy rates in downtown Toronto in the first quarter of this year, the vacancy rate for offices was 15%, the highest it's been since 1995. Ottawa's at 13%, Montreal over 16%, Vancouver's about 10%. It's 30% in places like San Francisco. But those are, entire, buildings or a big space in a building, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 floors. This would be something a little more niche or unique to those entrepreneurs, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. And so what's happening is large companies are downsizing and taking half as much space. So I was actually at the Pattison head office in Mississauga this week, and they occupied 2 floors. Now they occupy 1.5 floor, and half of the 1 floor they don't occupy anymore because they didn't need it. A lot of people are working out of their house, and so why pay for space they're not using? So if you think about this is one company that downsized square footage of office space. Can you imagine thousands and thousands of different companies across Canada doing the same thing? So the vacancy rate is going to be a lot higher. Like I know the building that my lawyer is in. I mean, he downsized his office, and they lost actually a law firm that went to a smaller office in a different building, and they used to take up 2 floors of a building. Now they got 2 empty floors there. They have to chop that up and to try to make it affordable for people to move in and lease from them. And the thing is with these buildings, they've been making so much money for such a long time. Now they're feeling the pinch, and some of them are not budging off their price on their lease rate, and it's being very difficult. But as time goes on, leases are coming up. People aren't renewing the square footage they originally signed up for. And so look at Elon Musk. I mean, he was renting a building when he took over Twitter, and he said to them, "Hey, He stopped paying rent. It's not a good way to go about it. He says, what are you going to do about it? If you kick me out, who are you going to fill this building up with, right? And so he renegotiated his lease, and a lot of people are doing that because if I was an owner of a big high-rise building and I have potential to lose a large tenant, I would opt to try to negotiate and try to keep that tenant because your building's worth less if you don't have it fully occupied. So if the guy wants to unload it down the road, he's going to have a hard time getting the price that he wants.
Yeah, and the alternative is no money as opposed to at least some money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's like anything else, like any plaza that you're somebody that is looking at buying, even a multi-unit tenancy building. If the rents are low or there's not rented, the value of the building is not going to be as good as if it was fully rented with higher rents.
So, Rob, you have a story about a flooded basement and a pretty sad one at that.
Yeah. So, and it's hard to gauge. We had a lot of rain this past spring. Like it rained. There was a time period it rained for like almost 10 days straight. And we sold this property, and the house was beautiful. It was a bungalow, finished basement and everything, and we went in and said, hey, yeah, this is good, and everything's all good. I mean, and the basement was nicely finished, and it was finished years prior. So anyway, the closing date was, I can't remember what the closing date was. Let's say a couple months ago. And then the rain came, and it flooded the basement. Now, these people are going to sue the previous owners. I think they're looking for $17,000, and not that much. I think they want to try to do it in small claims court. So they're suing because they felt that they knew that there was an issue. And there was one room in the basement that wasn't finished. And actually the owners asked us, and I was there, and I was there. They said, hey, should we finish this one room? I said, no, there's no sense. You'll still get the same price on your house. You don't need to finish this other room in the basement. It's fine. You're okay. And no issues. So they called us, and then I think about a month or two later, they put it up for sale. And we put it up for sale. We sell it fairly quick in the spring market. And the closing date was just prior to the big heavy rain that we got, just prior. And they ended up getting water in their basement. And I guess it's a lot of water. And now they're saying that room that wasn't finished is because they knew that there was an issue, which is not the case. I'm the one that said don't finish it because it wouldn't change the price of the house. And so we call that a latent defect. So no matter what, these people could have closed 2 weeks later, and that problem would have happened with the current owners of the house. And it happens all the time. You have no idea where there's a closing date and something happens after that. And a lot of times we have it where there's a closing date and things happen prior to the closing date, and the sellers, they got to rectify and fix whatever problems they have. So that happens a lot also. So either way, it's just the closing date is the closing date. Nobody can predict what's going to happen to a house. And so I brought up an article that happened that somebody tried to sue for $400,000. This was in a real estate magazine that most realtors get. And there were structural issues in the foundation. And on this article, the judge ruled that the homeowners did not have any idea how bad or if the structural was in the basement. They did fix some things that happened, but they had no idea that the basement was pretty messed up structurally. So after whatever trial they went through, the judge did not award the buyers the $400,000 that they were asking for because the homeowners did not know they had major structural issues in their basement and in their foundation. So the same thing is going to happen here. And, and lawyers are all interested a lot of the times, especially litigation lawyers, in fees and in taking to court. Now, I feel like sending this article to the other people, say, listen, there was no issues before. they would not have finished the basement the way it looked. This basement was gorgeous if they knew that they were going to have issues with water. And if they did have issues with water, they would not have done it. So they're trying to, I guess, and the sellers of the house are so upset and the stress of them having to go through this. And I says, don't worry. I says, it's just, maybe something happened. It's just bad luck for them. It could have been bad luck for the sellers, but it isn't. But just to give you an idea, what latent defects, and now latent defects refers to a hidden or concealed faults or issues in a property that are not immediately apparent upon inspection or observation. So they did have an inspector go through the house. Obviously, he says this house is solid. There's no issues, and there was probably no issues of water in the past. Now, the defects are not easily detectable by ordinary means and may not be discovered until after the purchase or occupancy of the property. Latent defects cannot include structural problems, electrical or plumbing issues, mold, termites, infestation, and any other significant problems that affect the value of the property. Now, the term latent implies that these defects are not obvious or readily noticeable, requiring specialized expertise or further investigation to identify them. So that's latent defects. That means that, hey, we couldn't see this, it didn't happen. Now, patent defects. Patent defects refers to a visible or easily noticeable faults or issues in a property that can be observed during a regular inspection or through basic observation. These defects are apparent and do not require specialized expertise to identify. Examples of patent defects can include cracks in the walls, broken windows, leaking pipes, or damaged flooring, unlike latent defects, which are hidden or concealed. So patent defects, you walk through the house, the windows are old, you got to replace them. The shingles, you can tell if the shingles. You can tell if the furnace is old, you got to replace the furnace. Those are patent defects. So what happens is something happened here, and I've been a victim of water, the heavy water that we had. Like, we've had leaks in a couple of properties that I had. So I mean, that's something that happened because of the excessive water that we had. Now, and so it's hard, and I feel bad for the buyers, and I feel bad for the sellers because they're going through this thing that they did not know of. And they're being accused of knowing it, and the buyers, I feel, because they have to pay for this. This is part of the business we have to deal with, and we just gotta go through it and deal with it, which way it lands.
Well, even with the home inspection, that would have really solidified whether this was a latent or a patent defect, because I would assume if the home inspector didn't see it, then no one would have seen it.
Exactly. You don't know. You don't know what happens behind the walls. I had an issue. This is years ago. We're talking probably 15, 20 years ago, where I sold a house and there was mold behind the walls finished in the basement. Now, our sellers did not know that. They ended up getting a lawsuit, and they sued. Actually, they sued the home inspector because he did not detect it. But he doesn't know what's going on behind the walls. And does he have the machine or the equipment that detects mold? So when they ripped and gutted the basement to redo the basement, they found mold in the basement behind the walls. Well, the sellers had no clue. They lived with it. They could have been sick. They could have, from it, but they did not know about it. And so they had to go through all this, and I think they were suing everybody. Like, what happens is they sue everybody. I can't remember what the outcome of that was, but I don't think they ended up getting that much money because of the situation, because it was a latent defect. It was something that nobody knew about.
Interesting stuff. All right, let's move on to what is a really interesting scenario in Hamilton, Burlington, and Grimsby, and it's been identified, or at least pointed out, in a new report called "Who Will Swing the Hammer?" It's from the Smart Prosperity Institute, with support from the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce and the West End Home Builders Association, and it really points to a failure by whether it's levels of government or just the community as a whole in terms of making Hamilton and Burlington and Grimsby a little more affordable in terms of the different housing options, family-friendly housing options that are needed to attract and retain experienced workers, healthcare workers, education workers, just to make this city much more enjoyable for all. And it says that, Hamilton's population is aging, so we need to do more to ensure there are enough housing choices for both millennials and Generation Z, or Generation Z, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Rob, your thoughts on this report and how we are doing in terms of housing choices for millennials and Gen Z?
So right now there is a shortage of homes, which is going to drive the prices up. So what's happening is there's a transition happening in the market, and it's happening everywhere. Now, Hamilton, we're getting people moving in, but we're also getting people moving out. So people are moving out towards Niagara or Brantford, and that are living in Hamilton. But we are getting GTA people moving towards Hamilton also. But a lot of it, what's happening is a lot of single people or couples are moving in. But as they find that they want to start having a family, it's becoming a little tougher to afford housing and cost of living, and they're moving away. So that's an exodus. So, you got Calgary, offering, hey, move to Calgary, and this is what we have to offer. So that marketing is helping Calgary, because a lot of people are moving out that way. But yes, they have to do something about the housing in Hamilton. It is getting expensive. And they just have to make it easier to build houses for builders, make it cheaper. I mean, they've got, for a builder to build a home, it's expensive. The levies and the cost for each house to build is expensive, and that cost transfers down to the consumer that's buying the house. And right now, the cost to build a house is very expensive. And builders aren't building that many right now. They're kind of like holding back and sitting around and hovering and seeing what's going to happen in the marketplace. So every month, every year that we're not building houses, we're building, it's like a constipation of an explosion that's going to happen in years to come, because we don't have enough housing. Now, we know there's a lot of people coming into this country. I think 1.5 million in the next 3 years, and where are they going to live? I mean, it's going to be tough. And Hamilton was, and it is still a little bit an affordable city to move to, but it is getting tougher, and people are realizing it, and that's why they came up with this program.
Well, and even with, the fact that many people can work, more people can work from home these days as opposed to ever before, they're looking at more affordable options in places like Brantford or perhaps even London, as one of the people in this news report indicated. And so if they're able to work from home, they're of course going to look for the cheapest place to live, because they don't have to commute. They don't have to travel into work. And Hamilton really has to step up in that regard.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why people are moving. Like, they're moving across the country. You could literally have a job in Hamilton or Toronto and move to Vancouver. It depends if you need to have the same time zone. But if you don't need the same time zone, then you could literally move anywhere in Ontario or the U.S. if that's what it takes. And I know there's people that actually are Canadians and they have dual citizenship, U.S. They work in the U.S., but their job is in Canada. And so a lot of people are working out of their houses. And as Generation Z is coming up the pipeline and getting jobs, they don't want to work at the office place. They want to work in their homes. And my generation prefers them working at the office, because, that's just the way it is. So it's going to take a 10 to 15 year transition before everybody's working out of their house and nobody needs any office space.
And here you are renting office space in the not too distant future.
Exactly.
We got a couple of minutes. I want to ask you about where you think prices are heading, because we heard from the Canadian Real Estate Association on Monday that said nationally home sales jumped by 11% between March and April, and the average price of a home in April was $716,000, up nearly $100K in 3 months. And then you have RBC saying that spring 2023 increasingly looks like the turnaround point for Canada's housing market after a year-long slump, and is predicting that sellers are back in the driver's seats. What do you glean from these two reports, and where do you think the market is heading?
Yeah, it's the market is doing really well. The sellers are getting back in the driver's seat. If you price your house right, you will either get that full price or more based on what the market is doing. And it has gone up. Like, we hit rock bottom December of last year. That was the best time. If you were looking for a house, if the inventory was there, that was the best time to buy a house, because you could have actually bought something and made $100,000 in 3 months. Crazy to think about that in these times, the way the market has gone and with the interest rates, that you could do that, but it is true. I think it's going to be continuous, and I still stand behind. In 2026, we're going to have an explosion. We're going to have of real estate values going up, and we're going to have the same thing in 2027 like we did in 2022. In the first quarter, you're going to see housing prices jump so far high that it's going to be like, what happened, and then it's going to resettle itself. And it'll take 8-9 months to swing back and adjust itself, and then we'll be going back up again. That was like our real estate recession was 9 months from April, the end of April till December of last year.
A really interesting pilot program in Hamilton is going to be launched. It's going to be done by the Kiwanis Homes in partnership with the Hamilton Community Foundation and the City of Hamilton, and it's basically a shared appreciation mortgage pool of about $3 million. That will help renters qualify for a first mortgage. So they're turning renters into homeowners, which is great. So they're going to start off with $3 million, which will subsidize the purchase of about 20 units. Rob, what do you think of this idea?
No, I think it's fantastic. And I'm trying to figure out if it's the same program they had years ago where they would literally lend the down payment to the renter. They have to be renting in Hamilton, and give them that money. And then I think it was 20 years later, they would pay if they sold the house before 20 years of ownership. That money would be paid back. I don't think there was interest on that. So that money would go back to the city or the government, and they would get that back. Now, if they stayed there for over 20 years, they would get to keep that down payment, and they built equity. Now, this is kind of a similar but different that they're offering, and it's kind of like a pool that they're doing together with the amount of money that they're doing. And again, it's a 25-year project where if they, I think, sell the property prior to 25 years, there is, I think, they would owe a certain amount of money back on top of whatever they were helped with. There is a lot of people out there qualified. Like, there's a lot of renters out there qualified to buy a house, but it's just sometimes maybe they don't have enough down payment. They don't have the right means. It's just a lot of people are scared to do it. So at least they got somebody that's holding their hand along the way on doing this. And it's a good program. And I think, it'll open up 20 new apartments or houses to rent out. And now we got 20 people that have home ownership, and they're hoping to continuously do this. Now, I mean, obviously there's, I didn't realize they had 200 units in Hamilton that are, Kiwanis has.
Operated by Kiwanis,
yeah. So they've got a lot of properties out there that they can do this with.
The only thing I wondered about, and this is a question mark that I'd love to get clarification on. So this program would cover up to 40% of a down payment and help tenants qualify for that first mortgage, which is awesome. And they don't have to pay that money back for 25 years. But the issue is, if you're taking away rental units from the city, does that not compound the situation that we have right now with supply and demand and how rental rates are so high, or is that kind of not on the table at all?
Well, it balances out, because it's like you're taking 20 renters and 20 houses that they have, and it's just kind of like they're staying, either they're buying the house that they're in or buying a different one. But yeah, you're right. It's tough. The key thing is it's hard to get affordable housing. As soon as the first person moves in, and if it is affordable, after those people move out, that's when it doesn't become affordable because those people want to sell it for a high price. So even if they're trying to build like these affordable condos or units down at the pier, down at the end of James and Bay Street, like down there, they're looking at building. Now, they're going to build affordable units, but once those people move in, they could live there for a year and sell it for a high price after. I mean, I don't know what the legal ramifications they have on buying and selling, especially if it's at a affordable discounted price. But that affordable housing doesn't last affordable forever. It lasts affordable for the first time buyer, and after that, it becomes expensive.
Absolutely. Hey, let's get to the listener question that came in. And you can email the Golfi team with a question you have and you would like Rob to answer. Questions@robgolfi.com is the email address. Again, that's questions@robgolfi.com. We got about a minute for you to answer this. The question is, I'm selling my home and my real estate agent will be taking a vacation soon. Should I be concerned?
In most cases, no, because most good realtors have somebody help them taking care of the business. And most good realtors are still in touch with their clients when it comes to dealing with their house. Now, if somebody wanted to see it and visit the house or anything like that, they do have somebody that works with them to make sure they're covered. Now, we do get the odd call from a client that says, my agent's on vacation and they're not around. And I'm like, well, you know, like, I don't know what to tell them. I said, we could show it to you, but we're going to have you sign a buyer agreement. Those incidences don't happen often, but there are agents that do not have people behind them. And that's a good question to ask when a realtor, when they're hiring a realtor. Hey, if you're away, are you going to be, is somebody going to be able to still take care of my listing? Because I don't want to miss any opportunities, any buyers looking at buying my house or you know, in selling it at that time.
We'll talk about diverse housing options because there seems to be a missing middle, not only here in Hamilton, but in many communities across the country. You either have single detached homes primarily, or you have condo units. In a lot of communities, like Toronto, for instance, you'll have all those high-rise condo buildings downtown, and you have a lot of single detached homes, but there's not a lot of townhouses, there's not a lot of semi-detached, or at least not as many as perhaps there should be. How do you think Hamilton is doing in this regard? Hamilton, Burlington, and Niagara. How are we doing in offering a diverse housing mix?
I think they are, but they're pushing so much to be heavy concentration in the downtown core, or, you know, you've got downtown Hamilton, and they're building a lot of condos there. You got Stony Creek on the north side of the Queen Elizabeth Way in Winona area, and Grimsby. They're building, you know, little communities of condos there. And then Burlington, they've got a lot of projects that are happening in the downtown core. They're trying to condense and keep people in the heavy concentrated areas, and not everybody wants that. And some people maybe, like, I know a lot of retirees, they, you know, may not want to be in a condo building. They may want to maybe just start in a townhouse with, you know, it doesn't have much work to do in the backyard. It's just a small little, you know, backyard patio, and that's it. They don't have to worry about cutting grass, and if they do, it's just, you know, a couple of patches of it. But more and more people are being more open to, especially in the Hamilton area, of finding okaying the idea of that, you know what, they need to do developments because we need more housing, because there's a shortage of it. So that is opening up more that way. But yeah, I think it is changing the dynamics. People are starting to realize we need more.
Do you think developers want to build more mid-rise, mid-density homes, or they, when they're looking at return on investment, they're looking at those single-family detached kind of homes?
You know what, the mid-rise, high rises, they make more money. And especially if they get the more floors in, the more money they make. The difference between like a 20 floor building to 25 floors, it could be millions of dollars more in the developer or builder's pocket. So that's why they always try to shoot for the highest amount of floors as possible, and hopefully they get what they want, and that's how they make their money. Now, a lot of them are. It's funny though. It seems like there's more problems when you're dealing with building single detached homes or townhouses, because there's a lot more involved in building that in separately than there is in building a high-rise condo, because you got the same people in there. I don't know. It's just, I know that more of them are going towards high-rise, mid-rise than they are going into building subdivisions with single-family detached and townhouses. It seems like the high-rise is where the big money's at.
Got a couple minutes, and we'll end with immigration in Canada. We know the federal government is planning to bring in 500,000 people per year over the next 3 years or so, which is making housing affordability even worse, because we already have a supply and demand issue. If you're bringing in 1.5 million people over the next 3 years, that's going to make that issue even worse, and we're not building enough homes to begin with. How do you see this playing out?
That's where we're going to have our real estate boom in 2026 and 27. That's what's going to cause our issue in housing prices. They're just going to keep going up. I think maybe they should put a little bit of a hold on that and let us catch up to the housing situation, and then maybe start bringing them back in. But they're continuously bringing people into the country, and I get it. I get it. There's a lot of people that are here and they want their relatives to come and they don't want them to wait. So it's a tough situation right now. In Niagara Falls, there's a hotel, more than one hotel, but there's hotels filled with refugees. They have no place to put them. Eventually, these people will be living in a house. So either they're renting, eventually they'll end up buying. That's what's going to cause the real estate boom in the next 2 to 5 years.
And it's not like the government can say, hey, you have to live in place X. Like they're going to go where they want to go.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, that's not, as you said, the house prices are going to continue to escalate because more people are in the pool of home buyers, and there's not enough homes to attract all these individuals. That's going to be an interesting process for sure. You can listen to our show online through Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, Stitcher, and many more. Just search for the Golfi Real Estate Show in your favorite podcast platform and hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. Thanks again to Rob for another fantastic show. And thank you for listening to the Golfi Real Estate Show Hamilton edition. We are back next Saturday at 9 on 900 CHML.